Welcome back to the channel. You're here because you like trucks. Trucks are one of the things that I really spend a lot of time on because I hunt and I live in this thing about 30 days out of the year in the Colorado Rocky Mountains. I probably put on anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 miles off-road, which is about 20 to 30% of the miles that I drive this thing annually. So I'm not talking about gravel, I'm talking about where the animals are. I will take this thing as long as it's legal. To the degree where I've popped through an entire set of tires, one tire at a time, until I finally got to what I've got now, the Mickey Thompson Baja Boss AT. But this video is not about that tire. This video is an overview of all the things that I've done to this truck over the years, how they've served me in a very brief overview. Stick around and I'll illustrate exactly what I've done to this truck so you can see what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to learn more from, and what I say yay or nay to. I'll start with the tires. These are the Mickey Thompson Baja Boss AT in the quote-unquote pizza cutter variety. I learned about these from Kai at Tinker's Adventure. I wanted something that was narrow profile, but also very durable because I popped several General Grabber ATXs, and while I liked the way those rode, they just were too fragile off-road. These are a definite 2 thumbs up if I wasn't holding the camera. I'll tell you exactly why in the video linked at the end. I did a review on these. Moving on to the suspension since we're there. This is the Bilstein 8100 in the front. I have the 8112 rear. These are not the adjustable type. If I had to say anything I would do differently, I would get those DSPs for the front because I've got this heavy bumper, which I'll get to in a second. But this suspension is amazing. I had the Toyota Aluma Boss 2.5s on here before, and I thought those were great until they wore out in like 25,000 miles. One of them literally fell apart. These are rock solid, and I would highly recommend these. And they have 100,000 mile intervals on them. The Dirt King UCAs, not to be overlooked. Those are also the same UCAs that Bilstein uses with their brand, although these are the newer, updated, larger ball bearing version, the more heavy duty version. And don't chintz out on your UCAs. I did have SPCs on here before. I went through several ball joints, and only to find that even after those are working, the bushing was just too soft, and it gave me horrible tire wear and really bad handling with lots of understeer. And I won't get too much into that until we get into the front suspension topic in a later video, but that's the overview there. Those three are all keepers. I'm gonna show you the rear real quick. That's the 8112's external bypass, and I do really like the adjustability there, especially because the back of this truck has a lot of different load changes depending on how full it is. And if I've got an elk hanging out the back there in my cooler, which I'll get to, I've got a rack that holds an elk. These are definitely a keeper. Quick note about the wheels, can't forget about that. These are Method bead grip wheels, not bead locks. These are the 17s. I went down from an 18-inch factory wheel, and the goal was to get a taller sidewall, and it was such a good idea because I can air these down around 15-20 psi off-road, and it just smooths out the ride so well and gives me much better traction. And I've gone down to 5 psi in the snow in these, and they did not slip at all. So not only that, but they're very light. I think they're 25 pounds each. So the extra weight that I gained with this heavier carcass tire was lost by going to the Methods. And so it kind of evened out that rolling resistance from the weight. And my MPGs are really close to, they're a little under what they would be factory because of all the extra weight on the truck. But in terms of weight or MPGs before the wheels and tires, same as they were with factory wheels and tires. I mentioned the front bumper a minute ago. This is the Road Armor bumper, and I do really like this bumper. It's a perfect fit. They did a fantastic job, made in USA, handmade, hand welded, I should say. And I powder coated it with Monster Liner bed liner, which that's another mod I did. Would I buy this bumper again as much as I love it? Probably not. There's better options now. When I bought this bumper, I don't know, 8 years ago, I think, there just wasn't a lot of American-made options, and I wanted something that was quality built. I had a friend that bought an Iron Cross, and that thing was just, we'll just say it didn't fit very well, and it looked funky. So I got the Road Armor. The only complaint I have about it is it just weighs a ton. If I were to do this again, I'd get the new RCI bumper. RCI makes fantastic armor for your vehicles. I've got all the necessary plates underneath, the engine guard, the transmission guard, the fuel tank guard. I don't think I did the differential. No, I didn't do that because apparently those are pretty strong from Toyota. While we're up here, I'll talk about this. I wasn't even planning to put a winch in there. That's the Harbor Freight Badlands, the one with the synthetic rope. Definitely a thumbs up on that, especially for the price. When I bought that, I got it for, I think, 400 bucks. I rarely winch, but it's one of those things that you don't need until you need it. And it has saved me twice. And I did pull a friend out of a ditch that he drove into in the middle of nowhere once. So worth to have on the truck. It's a little extra weight, yeah, but would be one of those things where you'd really feel bad if you didn't put that in when you were installing the bumper. Moving on, I'll show you what I got in the back too. The rear bumper is also road armor, and not quite as tightly built as the front. It doesn't weigh too much though, so I'm okay with the weight. It's just that it doesn't have as nice of a fit and finish. You can see around the edges here. It's kind of out of place. I also don't like how it flares out here, and that tends to get hit by rocks. And now, I keep getting rust there that I have to touch up. But it does the job. The thing that I would change, and I'd probably, if I wasn't putting a rack on it like this, I'd go with the RCI bumper. Again, just tighter build, and just looks cleaner. But with the rack, if I do this again, I would do probably just custom Dom steel tubing because of the weight bearing needs of this rack I've got up there. Now, I said this was an elk build, right? Like a hunting build. One of the biggest pains if you're a hunter like me is having a 200 quart cooler in the back of your truck with ice in it, food in it, and all that crap. And especially if you ever hunt alone, just getting it in and out is a real pain. So I wanted a way to mount this to the back of the truck without it being on a hitch carrier, like a hitch cargo carrier, because that wouldn't let me go where I want off-road. You need to have a lot of angle here for entry and exit when you're going up and down hills. So I was looking at the tire carriers and their capacities, and while most of them didn't seem to have enough capacity for, 200 pounds of meat on top of your cooler plus your ice, and I mean, when this thing's full with elk, food, ice, and all the gear that I have, there's probably a good 600 pounds in the back of my truck. So I needed something with a really sturdy bearing. So I built this custom with this 4X Innovations off-road pivot bearing. It's rated at 1,000 pounds, and that allows me also to swing this out of the way. It'll unlock, I'll show you in a second. And that way I can still access the back of the truck. Not only that, you're like, where's the cooler go, right? So what the max tracks are mounted to folds down, and the cooler actually fits right in there. Had this cut and welded to the spec of my 180 quart cooler. I designed everything basically and worked with a welder to put this together in about a day, and then I did the Monster liner on it, and that is one of my favorite things. I'll show you how that works in just a second. But yeah, with all that weight, Dom tubing probably would have been the way to go. Wouldn't look as cool, but who cares? I mean, I really don't think this bumper looks that great anyway. Quick overview of what's hanging out here, right? Got the gas can. I have an extra license plate in there because when that folds open, that one gets covered and I need to stay legal. Got the farm jack on top. That's another one of those winch type things. It's come in handy a couple times when I'm off-road and I get stuck in the mud. I also used it to change a tire off-road with the, those are RCI skids, rock skids, and then I managed to get 2 of these Roto Packs water bottles tucked in on the inside. This is a lock for the cooler. I'll show you how that works. So basically, these come undone. I've got one over. So that folds down with a couple of, these are like heavy duty ramp hinges for semi trucks with ramps, and got those welded in. They've got a Zerk fitting in there to take grease. And again, this is cut out for the cooler, right? Intentionally used this metal grid to be able to bolt accessories onto. And then I have these tucking, these are cargo buckles. They auto retract, and those are one of the sweetest things I've ever seen. And then the deny cooler lock that secures the cooler so nobody can take it, well, unless they really want. This piece is also part of the kit that comes with the that bearing, or you can buy it separately, I guess, from the 4X Innovations. Inside, this is a camp table, folds down. What good is a rack without a camp table? And then you got your water right there. And then in here, we'll go ahead and open that up. We've got, this is a ARE topper with the extra headroom and the decked system. So when I'm camping and hunting, we got the cooler on the outside, we got our camp table there, we got our beds all made already. My son and I just hop in and hit the sack when we're done for the day. And then we've got all of our recovery gear, food, tools, lanterns, you name it. I put blackout shades in there when we went hunting, and then I just got so used to not having to deal with people's headlights, I kept them up. And that just makes it easier to sleep. I installed a Diode Dynamics floodlight in there for extra light. It's burned out right now. I gotta figure out what's going on there. And then this is a Kenwood high def backup camera, and that thing is the cat's meow. And I literally don't need the backup, the rearview mirror when I've got that connected. Almost forgot, that is a front facing camera, which it comes in pretty handy when you're going slow, and it turns on automatically under 5 miles an hour. So when you're going into really technical terrain, it helps see what you're about to get into. To be fair, that bumper actually is strong enough for that setup. Just don't drive off with it open and an animal in the back. I did that, and it was 2 miles later that I found out that I busted the weld and bent the bumper. You can't see it now, and it's functional, but I did have to put a bolt in there just to get it back to functional level. Otherwise, it would have worked fine. RCI skids, again, those are heavy. Seems unnecessary until you do something like that and the side of your truck lifts up over a rock. You don't need it until you need it, and those are a lot cheaper than replacing that panel. Lights wise, I did say I had Diode Dynamics in the back. I've also got them in the front. These are their Pros. Those are in floodlight form. Technically they're road legal, but they're just too bright when people are coming towards you. So I do drive with them on the road because they are legal, but I shut them off just like I'd shut my high beams down when people come. Otherwise, they're gonna blind people with those things. I definitely give those a thumbs up. The KC highlights, I can't remember what these models are. I got them because they're round and they kind of have a classic look and they look good in there, but they just do not have much output. I will say, however, they're not so bright, which allows me to use them when I'm driving on the road. These are the ambers. They're very low lit, so I have them pointed low and to the side just to give me really good visibility when it's almost white out blizzard conditions. And then these are the bright white color, and those work just to give me a nice extra light, and no one ever flashes me when I drive with those. So sort of a sideways thumb on those. They're definitely a thumbs up because you can use them without blinding people, but they're not that bright. Almost forgot, those are the Diode Dynamic Pro fog lights for the reverse, and that is definitely 2 thumbs up. You can see everything you need to see at nighttime backing up. In case you guys haven't noticed by now, this is sort of a hybrid between Overland and, I mean, I wouldn't call it a rock crawler, it's a Tundra, but I do go up some pretty nasty stuff. I've been on some 30, 40 mile mountain passes where the only things I saw were pretty much off-road only vehicles and a couple of Jeeps that were heavily lifted. So, you know, I think that most Overland rigs are excellent if you're gonna do a lot of miles on the road. I even considered putting a big tall camper top back there, and maybe even a collapsible one, but the extra weight and the extra height and the MPG hit, which is your fuel range, just wasn't worth it to me. So I've designed this setup to be as off-road capable while still allowing me to sleep in it and make it functional as a camper too. I mentioned I did the Monster Liner on the bumpers, right? This is a Monster Liner bed liner. They are the premier bed liner in my opinion. It doesn't have any nasty rubber particles that fall off. I've had this on for years and it still looks like new. I've got it all over the entire truck. I took every single thing apart on this truck, all the trim off. I took the camper off, I took the bed off, and I got it basically painted. I painted with a friend of mine everywhere, so it looks factory. It took about a month. Would I do it again? Hell yes. I washed this truck. I don't even need to dry it. You just wipe the windows clean. I normally don't even wash the truck. I just washed it for you guys. It looks good dirty, especially with the Monster Liner. I apologize, I can't remember what these fender flares are called. I'll put it in the description. but these were excellent idea to protect the paint from rocks flying off. You saw on that back bumper, a lot of that actually happened before I put the flares there, okay? And so I wanted to get rid of the mud flat because it was causing problems off-road, and I wanted to protect the side. Thing I forgot to mention, that happened from driving a little too fast with chains, so I do have to put a new set of these on. And yeah, I damaged the body, but it's a good way to cover the damaged body is with a pair of fender flares. It also let me go a little wider on my offset for my wheel, which was really important for handling stability. One thing a lot of people don't realize with offset, and it is easy to go too wide, I honestly wouldn't want to go wider than the side of the truck. You can see that's pretty close to the edge of the flare. It just looks funny. It's not good for your wheel bearings. Maybe some of you guys like the way it looked, but I like a tight clearance. And but it is important to have enough offset, because if you lift your truck like this, and I'm only 2.5 to 3, probably 3 in the rear high, you're actually changing the handling dynamics quite a bit because your center of gravity gets higher, and you will start to understeer like no one's business unless you add some offset. So that wider stance will make it handle much better on road. And I went from having the electronic traction control come on in almost every single turn to basically never, unless I'm driving really aggressively. Coming inside, this is not a whole lot to show you guys here, aside from the Kenwood Exelon reference stereo and the classic Orion NT speakers that are covered in dirt. And you can't see the amps, they're behind the back of the seat, but I have a 1500 watt setup here with a combination of Orion and JL Audio. These are Bazooka tubes that I popped the Bazooka speaker out, and I put JL Audio 6W3s. I've got one on each side, and the system in here just rocks. Under the hood, I have electronic or power cables hooked up to, I can't remember what these plugs are called, but they're super handy. And an extra hose to the air, because I have not officially onboard air, because it's not like always connected, but this is one of those Napa air compressors with the dual piston. And boy, it is super fast. I made a mod video on how to set it up like I have, so I can just quick disconnect, hook it up, unplug it. That stays there the whole time. In fact, the seat usually stays down. People can sit there, and I just have quick access to connect it. And that way I can air up and air down really quick. In case you're wondering where I mounted the winch control, right here on top of the airbox, and those bolts are permanent Loctited through, because you do not want a bolt coming off and going into the engine. Inside there, I also put an AFE Pro Dry S filter, because I go through a lot of filters otherwise, and this way I can clean it after every drive without spending 30 bucks. Also have the gel battery by, who's this, Optima? This is a AGM battery. That is a must do. This thing turns like it's 80 degrees outside when it's 20 below zero, and powers all my accessories. I've never had a battery failure or even a flinch. Just so you guys know, I'm not crazy. This is a, I think it's 100 watt or 100 amp or 150 amp switch that I keep disconnected from this cable, so I don't always have hot power there. It also disconnects the winch. So if I'm gonna use onboard air or the winch, this goes up, and now we got power. Now it's disconnected, and it's also fused, so it'll pop in case something dangerous from the connection happens. Almost forgot, I did do an OME add a leaf on there, and that's because I'm carrying so much extra on the daily, and even when this thing's fully loaded down, all I really do is tighten up the dampening on the suspension, and it drives like it should. It just handles perfectly with that OME add a leaf, and then extra damping stiffness once I'm loaded. I do have a full 35-inch spare down there. With that's another reason I like the skinnies, because it doesn't hang down low. I did have to mod the mounting location to get some brackets out of the way. There's a video on that on my channel. And that red bar there, that's the TRD Toyota sway bar for the rear. I did take the front sway bar off because just with the way I have it set up, it handles way better just with one in the rear and nothing in the front. Also, again, tip from Kai at Tinker's Adventure, there's way better articulation when you take off that front and only have a rear in there. And you guys would be surprised at how much this thing articulates off-road. And I don't even remember the last time I had a single wheel up. Also not pictured, I did put stainless steel braided brake lines everywhere that I could find a section to fit it. There was like 2 small rear sections where I just couldn't source a part that was braided stainless, and that increased the braking feel significantly. It's just a lot more responsive, and everything I put into that pedal goes right into the brakes. I have considered doing a big brake kit, but I think next time I do brakes, I'm just gonna get some good quality cold forged ones with some really aggressive pads, and it'll be rock solid. Hey, don't forget to bring your Thomas guide. Right? Why? Apocalypse. And of course your extra side-in targets. Never want to leave home without those. Backup tire inflator, trekking pole's always handy. Power inverter, tire plug patch kit, that is a necessity. And of course, there's some more recovery gear there. I can spend a whole video on recovery gear. I think that wraps it up in terms of just generalities, guys. If there's anything else, I'll leave it in the comments. And do me a favor, if you think there's something I'm missing, let me know what it is. And if there's something that I went over, just drop a comment and tell me what you'd like to see me go into more detail on next. I did already go into some detail on that swing out on another video. I'll link that at the end. And I did go into detail on these tires at the beginning and towards the end of life. They're getting close to being replaced here. So again, thanks for watching. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And the more views I get, the more it helps support me making more content like this. So really appreciate you guys, and stick around for the next one and the entire series that will link in the playlist to come. Take care.